Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. President, you were completing a thought when time ran out. Let me ask this question because I said it in my opening statement, and it frustrates me a great deal as we begin to move dollars around the country that actually don't produce clean energy. I use the phrase a transfer of wealth. Is not the allocation process, and you talked about rewards and benefits, is that not a transfer of wealth so legislated?
To a certain extent, of course it is, yes. The issue in part is with what end and to what purpose. So in this instance, what we're seeking to do is to move revenues from systems, energy-generating systems that are highly carbon-intensive to those that are low carbon intensity. And those should, in theory, be managed through a price mechanism and a structure. But it will move money from one place to another.
Sure. Thank you. Dr. Smith, 2191 attempts to aggressively cut domestic greenhouse gas emissions. Your testimony indicates that it will only be achieved through the transfer of domestic manufacturing activities from the U.S. to international competitors. And we know that many of those international competitors will not be in any form of compliance until technology reaches them that allows them to comply. Under this scenario, what are the impacts to the economy, jobs, and frankly, to the global environment?
Well, what you've described is what
could you turn your mic on, please?
What you've described is what we call leakage. It's leakage of emissions from the U.S. to another country when either U.S. or either U.S. or foreign sources supply our demand, our needs with goods and services, emissions occur. And we can either produce them ourselves and emit it here, or we can try to cap our emissions here. And if the result of that is to create competitive disadvantage so that, in fact, we start to buy imports, all we've done is move the emissions from the U.S. to another part of the globe. The environment gains nothing when that occurs. I did not actually, I'd like to correct something you said. I did not say that the entire cap is met through leakage. I did say that a cap with this degree of price increase without protections at the border for our industry, which are not in the bill, those protections, would create tremendous amounts of leakage that would just be a perverse consequence of the bill. It would hurt our economy and do nothing for the environment.
Sure. Thank you. Dr. Thorning, I'm not sure whether this fits, but I find it a fascinating idea. On October 20th of this year, San Francisco turned out their lights. And they were out for an hour in an attempt to save electricity. I'm told that to some it was a very frightening experience because they didn't have the security that lights and energy brought them. You indicate that we would have to reduce our energy usage by significant amounts to meet the goals of 2120 based on the timing that all of you have spoken to. Can you give us an idea how realistic this energy savings approach is, and would California have to go from 1 hour to 2 hours? Or I should say San Francisco. California didn't do it all.
Well, the targets in S2191 are so tight that it would clearly impinge on consumers' lifestyles. And I think it would require, as my testimony suggested, by 2030, reducing emissions by approximately 50% on a per capita basis. And stop and think what that means to what kind of appliances, what kind of house, what kind of transportation system you have. It would require much dimmer lighting, much more emphasis on building efficiency and so forth. And all of those changes can be made in time, but because of the length of life of our capital stock, it's very, very costly, as Dr. Smith's analysis suggests, to make these transitions in a matter of 15, 20, or even 25 years. So I think we need to look very carefully at the kind of challenge we're putting in front of consumers and business with the targets in this bill.
Thank you. 36 seconds left. Quick question of you, Mr. Barber. How can we be certain that any cap and trade system employed here in the United States can in fact avoid the volatility that the European experience has had and when it was established over there, the reaction to it?
Yes, Senator, I think there were several lessons to be learned from that experience. Certainly there was an over-allocation of allowances to industry, which once that was discovered, that really diminished their value over time. So the allocation needs to be tightly matched to the desired environmental goal, to not only to reach that goal, but also to preserve their value over time. And secondly, as I had mentioned, there was no provision for banking into the next period. It simply ended, and that really drove the value to zero. I think we still have yet to discover how well the system will work. The Kyoto Protocol's first compliance period actually begins in 2008 to 2012, so it's a little premature to judge. Maybe in 2012 we'll know how well the system works, but it hasn't even started yet.
Thank you all very much for your time with us.